Can you do carnivore if you've had bariatric surgery? The short answer is yes, but in today's video, I'm going to give you some tips to transition over to carnivore after bariatric surgery because you have some unique considerations that you need to take into account. I'm also going to be sharing part of an interview with Adrian Gledhill. She's a former Biggest Loser contestant that later underwent bariatric surgery, and she's now been doing carnivore for over 18 months, and she has a wealth of knowledge on the topic. Before we get started with the video though, did you know that 81% of the people watching this channel are not subscribed? If you enjoy my content, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Doing so is a free and easy way to spread the word about the healing power of carnivore, and I thank you so much for your continued support. I'd also like to mention that I've started a second channel called Jenny Middich, etc. This channel features vlog-style behind-the-scenes content. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description and at the end of this video so you can get subscribed and sign up for notifications. First off, what is bariatric surgery? Bariatric surgery refers to a group of procedures that help people to lose weight by changing their digestive systems. There are many different types of bariatric surgery techniques, but here in the United States, there are 4 main ones. And those are gastric bypass, sleeve gastrectomy, gastric banding, and the duodenal switch. While some people have great success with bariatric surgery, they're able to lose the weight and keep it off, lots of people experience side effects and end up regaining the weight. Bariatric surgery is marketed as a permanent weight loss solution, but the data just doesn't confirm that, and in fact contradicts that, as most people regain most or all of the weight within 10 years on average. To answer the question, can I do carnivore if I've had bariatric surgery? Let's head over to our interview with our expert, Adrian Gledhill. And then we'll finish up with the top 6 tips that will help you get started on carnivore if you've had bariatric surgery. This is Adrian Gledhill. Thank you for agreeing to this interview.
Thanks for having me.
First off, can you tell me just your story, your journey of how you got to bariatric surgery in the first place?
I just feel like this whole time I'm just struggling with weight, and I try different diets. I slim a few pounds off, but they always come right back. And so I'm pretty convinced there's something wrong with me, or I'm deficient in something. I've got this history of trying so hard, trying so many different things. Every single time within a few days of getting to a lower weight, my weight just starts going back up. And at one point, I was like, I think that there's something wrong with my body. And so I had gastric bypass.
What surgery did you end up getting?
So I had the gastric bypass where they turn your stomach into a little piece and then they move the rest of the stomach over and they attach the little piece of stomach down further on your intestine, bypassing a whole bunch of intestine.
What kind of nutritional advice did you get before, during, or after your surgery process?
So before, they kind of let me skip through the process. Usually it's at least 6 months, maybe a year long. They knew that I knew how to lose weight. So they kind of skipped me through things. They did give me some general advice. When you first have the surgery, right before it, you go on a liquid diet for 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes more, depending on how large your liver is. Mine was only a week of a liquid diet. And then after you have the surgery, because your stomach's healing, you have to do a liquid diet. After that, they tell you to eat 1 cup of food or less several times a day. So maybe like 5 times a day. It was supposed to be high protein, but low fat foods with vegetables. And I was definitely shooting for low carb too.
How much weight did you lose after the surgery?
I start out at about 230 pounds and I get down to 165. But the minute I hit 165, I start going back up again.
Okay. How long did it take you to get to 165?
About 6 months.
So then it started to go up right after 6 months.
I ended up hovering in the 190s to 200 for the next 10 years.
What were some of the side effects for you after your surgery?
The biggest one is hypoglycemia. It's like I got inflamed and my hormones got so far off that it just about anything could trigger this hypoglycemia. Another one is nutrient deficiencies. I was having terrible anemia. I've had infusions several times. I had issues absorbing protein. I was very low energy after and having all these side effects. I've pretty much been low energy since the surgery. And I wish I would have known that then, that what I needed to do instead of having surgery was maybe some reverse dieting for a while, but instead I had the surgery.
That has to be very frustrating. I mean, because you go through this surgery, okay, this is the last thing that you're ever going to have to do, when in reality, most people after they get bariatric surgery gain that weight back within 10 years. How did you transition over to carnivore?
Throughout the years, I started getting lower and lower and lower energy, and I started having other symptoms too. I just wasn't feeling well. Several autoimmune conditions just started piling on. And so I came to carnivore to heal those, and I got so much more than healing.
How long have you been carnivore now?
A year and a half.
Before we get into viewer questions, I wanted to take a moment to thank Element Electrolytes for sponsoring today's video. Element is an electrolyte brand that has everything you need and nothing you don't, with 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. I'm typically using the raw, unflavored Element on the carnivore diet. This doesn't have any flavorings, no sweeteners, no nothing. It's just the minerals. And I'm doing one packet in 16 to 24 ounces of water first thing in the morning, especially in the summertime because it's super, super hot out. They also just released a sparkling water. This is their black cherry lime. I love this flavor. I also love their watermelon. So this just has the electrolytes mixed into it already. You pop it open and you drink it. In the summer in the Chicagoland area, it's been super, super hot this year. So I'll do like one can of this, and then I'll do 1 to 2 packets of the raw unflavored Element every single day. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. So head to the link in the description. It's drinkelement.com/Jenny Middich. That's DRINK lmnt.com/Jenny Middich and get your free sample pack with any order today. And that's for the drink packets. That's if you do some of the sparkling water. Whatever you order, you can get that free sample pack with that link. I asked my audience to let me know what their specific questions are, since you have been through this process and a year and a half on carnivore after having the bariatric surgery. So what is your experience with protein after bariatric surgery?
When I first started carnivore 9 years after having surgery, I was still struggling with eggs and beef and all the proteins. They would stick to the sides of my stomach. It would get clogged. It hurt so bad. So switching to carnivore was a transition, and it did hurt at first. And it was very difficult at first. And I'd also like to add a layer here. I wasn't feeling well either. I was having food reactions. I just continued on. I started adding melted butter to everything. It helped move things through my digestive system. I think it's very important to chew your food and maybe even take sips of water. After time, you will build stomach acid.
What are your thoughts on using protein powders to try to get more protein?
I would steer more towards the beef proteins than the whey proteins, just because I think that the profile is a bit more nutrient dense. And the problem is, if you've had gastric bypass, that it may cause you to have dumping syndrome or hypoglycemia. I personally cannot really do those, but what you could do maybe is mix the protein powder with eggs, make protein pancakes, make a protein bread with the eggs.
I wanted to circle back to what you said about chewing your food. You need to chew your food until it starts to liquefy, to really break it down and start to get those nutrients flowing. Is that something that you agree with?
100% that the stomach fluids seem to disappear quickly, and we just have to stick with it, and they will continue to grow and come back.
How have you addressed the vitamin and mineral deficiencies that you experienced after bariatric surgery?
I used to take the bariatric supplements like a religion because they told me I needed to for the rest of my life. And it turns out that those have a lot of additives, and a lot of the nutrients that are in them are not super bioavailable to us. So
Right.
instead, now I just eat meat. It's just so much more bioavailable. Since going carnivore, my hypoglycemia has been completely gone.
Let's move on to a question that I get a ton, and that is acid reflux issues. Do you think that people could manage that also by doing lots of small meals throughout the day to try to limit the amount of food they're consuming, at each
Yes.
meal?
And that would be a great tool for trying to get your protein in as well.
How many meals a day do you eat typically?
I eat 3 to 4.
I eat 2 to
Me
3
too.
meals per day. If you've had any kind of bariatric surgery, you could go up to 5, 6, 7 meals per day. You have to figure out what works best for your body.
And you really got to build a relationship with your body too. You had a surgery, your body almost maybe doesn't trust you and is going to be quick to maybe go into preservation mode because you've altered your anatomy.
One viewer had a surgery 20 years ago, and some shakes and some meats are still giving them issues. What are your thoughts on that and how they can slow that down, that running through your body?
No rendered fats for that. person.
Could you do like for a ribeye, they could eat the fat that's on that, but you wouldn't want to put butter on top of it, melted butter.
Exactly. And then I personally don't do shakes. My body's never gotten used to it. It just dumps into the intestine too far and it skips a big portion of the intestine and my body doesn't know what to do with it and it still reacts.
One viewer was concerned because after the surgery, it seems like fat is just like running straight through her. So her question is she retaining enough fat for the diet to work right and for her to have enough energy?
I think it's going to be fine. Fats don't actually have many nutrients in them. It's more energy. So you're getting your nutrients from your meat. There are a lot of people who thrive on a higher protein, lower fat diet. I think you're going to be fine.
Do you think easing into carnivore would be a better solution for most people with after bariatric surgery?
I think it's just the natural progression. Do your
Cool.
best to really fill up the best you can.
And that will improve with time too on carnivore, I think. You know, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time.
Yes, that definitely improves.
Well, Adrian, this has been just amazing, a wealth of knowledge that you have. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this topic, and I think this is going to help a lot of people.
Thanks so much for having me.
If you'd like to see the full version of this interview, I'm going to link it at the end. I'm planning on releasing it next week, so if it's not there, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned because it will be there very soon. Let's move into the top 6 tips for going carnivore after having bariatric surgery. The first tip is easing into the diet as opposed to going cold turkey is probably your best bet. Start by eliminating any kind of ultra-processed foods from your diet, so desserts, pastas, sugars, those kinds of things. At the same time, you're going to replace those food items with fatty cuts of meat. You can do some vegetables, you can do some low-sugar fruits. The key here is you want to make sure you are starting with a whole, real food diet. That being said, you're going to want to avoid plants that have high oxalates and high lectins. Oxalates and lectins are just phytotoxins, plant toxins. Plants want to defend themselves, and unlike animals, they can't just run away. So the way that they defend themselves is chemically through these plant toxins. You're already going to be avoiding gluten since you're cutting all the grains out of your diet. But there are some fruits and vegetables you'll want to steer clear of because they're very high oxalate. You need to avoid spinach, almonds, cashews, any kind of chocolate, kiwis, starfruit, blackberries, and raspberries. Those are going to be your largest offenders. And if you'd like more information about oxalates, you need to read the book Toxic Superfoods by Sally Norton. I've included a link to that book in the description along with a free month of Audible, so you could just listen to it for free if you'd like to. But that is your like go-to source for any information about oxalates. After you've transitioned over to a whole, real food diet, I want you to start reducing your carb count by 25 to 50 grams per week. And again, as you continue to drop more carbs, you're going to increase the amount of fatty meat and animal products that you're eating. This process can take as long as you like, but I think a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks with maybe a max of 8 to 12 weeks. Just take as long as you need to feel comfortable and make that transition. Tip number 2 is consuming many smaller meals. You're most likely going to be needing to eat lots of smaller meals throughout the day because you just can't consume the large volumes of food that you see a lot of carnivores eating out there. You have to make carnivore work for you in your particular situation. So if that means you're going to be eating 3, 4, 5, 6 meals per day, so be it. Try to keep the meals to a condensed feeding window, so maybe 8 to 10 hours out of the day. That way you're just not constantly consuming food all hours of the day and night. But that condensed feeding window can take some time to build up to. So I think in the beginning, for the first month or 2 on carnivore, just schedule out your meals, eat until you're full at every single meal, and then take it from there. Your body will adjust and you will figure out the best meal cadence for you, your schedule, your lifestyle, and your nutritional needs. And make sure to stick to meals. Don't be constantly grazing all day long. Even if you have 5 or 6 meals in that 8 to 10 hour period, make sure you are eating as much as you can at that meal and then do not eat in between meals. The next tip is avoiding rapid transit. So you put it in your mouth and it's coming out the other end really quick. We want to avoid that as much as possible. First off, you're going to need to stay away from liquid or rendered fats in the beginning of carnivore. Just focus on eating solid fats, so ribeyes, bacon, salmon, fat that comes as part of the meat that you are eating. This is going to help your body transition over and get used to the higher fat content while lowering the carbs. Remember to chew, chew, chew. Slow down while you're eating. Make sure you're in a calm state or a parasympathetic state. You don't want to be running around, eating on the go, anything like that. You want to take the time chill out to really allow the digestive process to work. Most people after bariatric surgery, they're advised to not drink any liquids while they're eating, but perhaps 1 or 2 small sips of liquid can help with the digestive process. You're just gonna have to experiment and figure out what works best for you. Also, incorporating an HCl supplement or ox bile or some other kind of digestive enzyme could be helpful. I'll put some links in the description to some high quality ones that you can check out for yourself. My next tip is all about protein, getting enough protein. You want to aim for a minimum of 0.6 to 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So let's break that down with an example. I'd like to weigh 130 pounds. So at 0.6 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight, that would work out to 78 grams of protein. At 0.8 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight, that would work out to 104 grams of protein. And at 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, that would be 130 grams of protein minimum per day. If you're coming from a place where you're not consuming a lot of protein right now, this is going to be a process. It's going to take some time to work up to those numbers. As you're eliminating the carbs from your diet, you're going to be upping the protein and the fats slowly. If you're having a hard time getting enough protein with the meats that you're eating, make sure you're following tip number 2, where you're eating many smaller meals throughout the day. And just get as much protein as you possibly can at each of those meals. Perhaps you can try incorporating some kind of meat-based protein powder or maybe some kind of powdered meats, and cooking that into some kind of meal. Eggs or meatloaf or maybe like protein pancakes, something that you're already going to be eating, just so you can up the protein content. That does work for some people it doesn't, and some people can do protein shakes without it running right through them, and some can't, so you're just gonna have to do some experimentation. My next tip is all about the keto flu. Now, since you're going to be easing into carnivore, hopefully you're going to be avoiding a lot of the keto flu symptoms, but it could still happen. Make sure you're keeping up with your electrolytes through a premixed brand like Element or something like that. There's tons of brands out there. Really, you just wanna look for something that doesn't have added sugar, added flavors, added colors, any kind of fillers, anything like that. You can also make your own at home, or you can do half a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt in, however much water, and just drink that. That has like 80+ minerals in it, including sodium, magnesium, and potassium. So that is also a low-cost solution for electrolytes. My final tip for you is around vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Do not stop taking any of your medications or your supplements when you are coming onto carnivore. Just continue taking them for the time being, and perhaps down the road you can think about reducing those or eliminating those, but that's not anything to worry about right now. As you learned or probably already knew, nutrient deficiencies are just par for course for anybody that's had bariatric surgery because you don't have an intact digestive system. There's absolutely no shame in taking supplements. There's no shame in getting a vitamin infusion. You have a completely different situation than the, rest of the population. And you should definitely be getting regular tests to make sure that you are addressing any kind of nutrient deficiencies that come up quickly so that you stay healthy. Also, Adrian noted in her interview that after going carnivore, she's only needed 1 vitamin infusion. So perhaps the nutrient density of the carnivore diet will allow you to reduce or eliminate those over time. But again, this is just a reality that people that have had bariatric surgery have to face, so do what you need to do to stay healthy. There was a couple more things that came up in my research for this video. One is long-term fasting is probably not going to be in the cards for you, but I do think that with some time, once you're used to the diet, 16 to 18 hour intermittent fasts every single day are very much so a possibility for you. But I wouldn't worry about fasting in the beginning. Just get used to the diet first, and that will come down the road. And also, this isn't related to carnivore and bariatric or anything, but in my research, I did find that people that have had bariatric surgery should avoid NSAIDs like the plague. So Advil, Aleve, Motrin, things like that. You should not be taking any of those type of over-the-counter pain medicines after you've had bariatric surgery. If you'd like to see the full interview with Adrian Gledhill, I'm gonna link it right here. And if it's not right here right now, that means I haven't released it yet, but I will release it very soon. So if you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll put another video right here that will give you more information about what version of carnivore you should start with. I'll also put a link to my second channel, Jenny Minich, etc. So you can click on that, get subscribed, and sign up for notifications. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.